We are live. We're not even asking anymore. We're live.
It's not even just live. It's like, it's 2026.
A week late. We got stuck at the border.
Canadians, after all, guys.
And inspections were happening. We had an inspection. It didn't work out.
Yeah. Well, no, that's true. That's true.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Season 3, episode 1. Same format as last year so far, because John and I have been on hiatus, not working our creative brains, but just enjoying some time off. We will bring something new and fun as always as the year goes on, but we're just starting off with the common thing that we do, which is still fun. Well, we still enjoy it. We love it.
I mean, it's not just what we're going to do. This is going to be fun since it's the start of the year, first of the year episode. So it's a little bit different because we don't normally just, throw stuff against the wall. But today we're going to throw some stuff against the wall.
Well, we're going to start off with some good morning brain food for John because he's still kind of sluggish from the year. We're going to go off with the only controllable variable in any situation is you. Oddly, it's the last one people adjust.
Ooh. Did you find a new source for your quotes to start this season?
The source is always the same.
The source is always the same. Yeah, you know what? Look, I do think that anyone, that's always looking for making any type of improvement or whatever should be looking at yourself first, because the things that you can control in your business, for example, are always going to be the ones that, don't disappoint, right? How often, Matt, have you seen big projects, big plans, big this, big that, and it's predicated on the fact of like, oh, this customer, that, or these types of sales here or there or whatever. Very rarely are they more in-house than external. So I do think that anything that is much more you or under your control, and then that being yourself, is always a good place to start.
I think if you reflect honestly on any given situation, there's always a variable that you can improve. Doesn't matter how perfect you were or how much you did something, you can always do better. And most people always go, well, it's not me, it's someone else. It's not my fault. It's the carrier or the warehouse or the sticker wasn't right. We didn't do, I did my checks and balances, so that should be good enough.
Actually, that's true though, because so many people get preoccupied with the fact of like, oh, well, what's fair? It's not fair that I have to do more, that I'm doing this, or I shouldn't have to do that for someone else's kind of like failing. And look, I get it. The way that I always say it though, is that if you're able to say that, or if you are saying that to someone, the likelihood is that you're already impacted by it anyway. So, you might as well really embrace and grab hold of what you can control and what you can do, rather than just thinking about everyone else needing to do something better.
And I'm bad at this. I'm going to admit it. I like to, especially when you're running your own business, you can skip your own steps because you can go back to them, and then. You're like, oh, I'll do this later. And then when later comes, you're like, oh, I got this. Oh, I didn't do this aspect, or I skewed these numbers. I know in my mind, I have them variably off to the side, but I got to go back and fix them. Leaving things for later because it's just you is equally not okay, because you're the variable that's making things worse for yourself down the road, right? Yeah, and it compounds when there's someone else in the business, but it starts off with you not finishing your own process all the way through, right? So on that note, though, John.
Yes.
We're not going to read the news. We're not going to talk about current events. We're going to talk about predictions for 2026.
Yeah. That's right.
And we cheated though, because we didn't have any great predictions. Well, we had great predictions, but nothing as cool as predictions that we used.
Some of it is trying to look at what are other people predicting or what are people saying, because obviously that's what you guys deal with a lot. Someone's always trying to sell you something. Someone's always trying to tell you that tomorrow is going to be like this. So we have some of our own thoughts, but we also did a little bit of quick research to see what is sort of out there right now.
Prediction number 1. You can read that one, John, because you
Okay, so several 2026 outlooks expect agentic AI to move from advisory dashboards to systems that autonomously reroute freight, negotiate spot rates, adjust inventory, and execute workflows with minimal planner touch inside tools like SAP, Oracle, Microsoft Supply Chain. This one I think is honestly probably the easiest kind of shoe-in, because right now I say that because there's such a push behind AI and behind agentic AI that I think it's almost inevitable that you're going to see more of this coming out. NRF was just full of AI and agentic AI type stuff. So I definitely think that this is going to just spew into logistics and supply chain this year. This one I do agree.
I don't know if I agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I agree with a lot of it because I think there's too much weight behind it. And it feels a lot like what we had, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Blockchain was taking care of everything. Everything was connected to blockchain. BOL is going to be electronic. Everything is going to be super connected. You're going to get paid waiting time instantly. All these big things were happening. And then it went away. So, I'm not saying AI is going away. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying a lot of the things that it's talking about here, like reroute freight on the go kind of thing, negotiate spot rates. There's already a lot of pushback on a lot of that. And I can't see customers being like, hey, and your AI called me and wants better rates. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think stuff more in like the adjusting inventory management, and I think moving along transactions is probably more where you're going to see it. I know for a fact, SAP example is selling it and really pushing it. And I mean, honestly, rightly so, because the thing is that these companies with these massive ERP systems and MRP systems and all of these things, they know that the quality of the data and transacting the data to the right places is what every business needs these days. They also acknowledge the fact that it's probably the biggest downfall to their value proposition, right? Like, I mean, if you mention like, hey, do you know about, SAP? Do you know about Oracle? I think most people kind of roll their eyes in the sense of knowing how cumbersome and how tedious those systems are to work with. So I think there's too much pressure for them to not continue down the path. And I definitely think that they'll continue to focus on ways to reduce the amount of user input required to make their transactions happen. And then I think the other stuff comes later when people are more comfortable and stuff, because the thing is, rerouting freight is fine. Like, the concept of being able to move the transaction really isn't the hard part. It's whether it's the right thing to do or not. And I think you probably agree with this. The vast majority of people like misunderstand the complexity of freight, because, the same type of load moving on the same lane in a similar way doesn't always have the same formulaic answer about how you might fix something or how you might adjust it. And I think that there's still a ways there before there's enough data built up and enough insight built up.
I don't know if people are a variable enough that you can't take away that chaos, and you've seen this a lot with even Waymo and all those self-driving taxis getting to accidents recently because of these weird variables that are popping up, or people just pushing over robots that are doing deliveries on the road because these variables that should be X amount of time could be disrupted. And there's all these other disruptions, like I was talking about. People are malicious in themselves, and they will send out signals to disrupt movement of goods just because they want to be a DICK about it. Moving on to the next one. I'll read this one.
All right.
Did I spell it right? I don't know if I was spelling it right. Commentators describe self-healing or proactive supply chains where AI constantly re-optimizes based on live telemetry, weather, risk factors, and turning today's exceptions management into largely automated machine-to-machine decisions. Here I say everything up to the last point makes sense, and I think it's just we'll be able to react as people to challenges quicker, because the amount of information that you're taking in, it's going to be a lot more easily digestible. And then you're able to kind of move things through the supply chain quicker as you can comprehend all the different factors that are happening. I don't know about the machine-to-machine decisions yet, but I don't know if that's a 2026 thing. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, see, this one I think is a bit of a red herring, because the thing is that, like, I think this is like highly contextual. This is kind of like one of those things where, like, it's like a how to lie with statistics type thing. It's like it can be true and not true just depending on the way that you look at it. A very common one for this, when people think about it now, a little bit more tightly focuses on logistics. When you're thinking deliveries, like, I'm going to constantly re-optimize. The reality is, though, there's only so many ways you can re-optimize without having the most ultra dense density. Like, at some point, you have to get some things done in a way that inherently makes more sense than the fact that it's raining. And then on the more macro side, when you're thinking about, again, large scale shipments and rerouting and this and that. The reality is the vast majority of buyers, right, from sellers, do not have the velocity of goods nor the level of decisions required that there would be so many options. Like if you're buying from a factory in China, okay, I set up the date. Okay, I think there's going to be a bad weather thing. I'm going to try to get it on this shipment or that shipment. But I mean, if the boat leaves, if it leaves once a week or whatever, there's not a ton that you can start doing. If you're saying I have to have it by a certain date, there's not a ton you can start doing. So I think that these systems are like a yes and no, because I personally don't believe that any of this stuff, anyone pitching of this stuff, most of the time for most businesses has enough going on that any of this actually has any real impact.
Interesting. I'm trying to set up the next ones. Oops.
I see that. And you're showing everybody your notepad.
I'm showing everybody. I'm picking one that you didn't have in there. I'm trying to find something because the other ones seemed very similar. I think this is interesting.
Yeah, some of the ones that came up in that search were similar.
I'm surprising John on this one. He's ready. Ooh,
ready. I'm reading it with you. Yeah, I'm finding out at the same time as everyone else. Let's go.
Boom.
The entry level job will die a slow death. I think to be honest with you, there's a little bit more like the entry level stuff for sure. That was like ultra basic. I think for sure it's got a bit of a problem. I think the middle management aspect is a little bit more at risk just because of the fact that like typically in a lot of organizations, middle management was like about administering and facilitating decision making. And if you've got these systems that are all dialed in and are following like essentially their programming, which inherently means they're following their rules, and your variability drops. I think that's a bit of a risk too. I do think, unfortunately, this trend continues a little bit. I don't think it's probably as wild as what you started seeing like last year with like Salesforce making some big slashes and a lot of the tech companies. But I do think that it's going to continue to sort of narrow down opportunities and kind of like, like sort of shorten that funnel a little bit so that you're going to find less opportunity. That I do believe.
Yeah, the entry level positions of traditional sense, I think, like you said, are pretty much gone. But at the same time, it's funny. A lot of these companies, logistics companies online, who've been all 2025 been touting, "Hey, AI is here. We're investing heavily into AI. We're going to automate a lot of this process. We're getting rid of the fat." The first kind of 2026 posts that they were doing was, "Hey, look at all the new recruits we have, for 2026." It's going like, which one is it? Are you getting rid of all these positions, or you're bringing people in? Because there is a gap still. That's what I'm trying to get at. And at these entry level positions, and this is one of the common thing that I hear a lot of these AI companies, the startup companies talking about is, we can get rid of those entry level positions, but those are the learning blocks for people just as much as AI. So how do you get someone from fresh out of high school, fresh out of university, up to a level where they're, a 20-year veteran?
But see, that's
without having those entry.
Okay, so here's my then official prediction that's a tangent off this one. Okay, so I think 2026 is going to be the year of division when it comes to sort of like AI in the workplace or like AI in business in general. And it's going to be between the people that, for example, are, and those organizations that use it to empower and enhance and expand the capabilities of their teams versus the ones that try to replace. I think the replace is something that most companies don't have enough data for. They don't have enough compute. They don't have enough like real.
Or if they do, they don't have it correctly set up to be able to read it.
Yeah. And so what I really think where you're going to see the focus is more in like, how do I bring that person, to your point, how do I bring that person that's just fresh out of school? And my hiring now becomes on, I'm interested in finding the most curious and the most unrelenting and the most self-learning type people that I'm going to equip them now with essentially a digital tutor through our business to continue their acceleration and make them stronger. And I think that individuals and organizations that adopt more of that mindset, then I'm going to buy an app instead of a person hire. I think you're going to see a really big difference. So there's an official prediction for me is the AI enhancement of the workforce, but in the sense of like true expectation of companions when you're thinking about operations and stuff like that, in much the same way that you've seen in organizations like Shopify and stuff like that.
I'm not going to say 2026 is the year. I think 2027 is going to be more of the year where you see the entry level person leapfrogging ahead of anybody before, because they'll be far more educated in AI than the previous year. So this year is not year that, because we've been had AI for like 2-3 years now that we kind of everybody's kind of fiddling with. But there's kids out there that are coming out of high school that are creating these incredible programs to help better their own work, whether it's a school, whatever they're thinking of, that when they come into the workforce, they're really going to be a powerhouse that's going to really be a wealth generation. So that's my prediction. By the end of 2026, I think we're going to start seeing that as that first cohort of super intelligent youth with technology that comes into that workforce, where it's going to make people like you and I and people above us really worried, because they're going to have the knowledge far quicker than we ever learned to be able to get it.
That I agree. I think the learning curves are going to change dramatically, which I think for a lot of organizations can be very tough to manage when you're thinking about the operations, logistics, supply chain world that typically had not seen that much.
Because tribal knowledge goes away, because a lot of it's going to now be contained in the AI. And what's the point of having a trainer? What's the point of, hey, John, there's no point of me talking to you. All your knowledge is already in here. I can pick and probe at your questions without ever talking to you. So I can get to your knowledge and go further without you holding back anymore. And I think that's going to be a unique approach.
For sure. And the consistency of it, right? Because I think the biggest challenge that most organizations have training and onboarding and being successful at that is that, you could have two similar candidates and one trains with, Dave and the other one trains with Bob, and like Bob's great and Dave's okay. And that person who's training with Bob is more likely going to be in a better place than the person who trained with Dave, even though they probably should have been about the same place.
I already got my son working on Python, learning through apps and whatnot, because I don't believe the schools are going to provide that kind of language learning that he needs. By the time he needs to know it, it'll be too late. So I think it's going to be different. Anyways, next one. I think this is another surprise one for John, so we're going to see his reaction. Self-driving trucks will deliver groceries in 2026.
No, not groceries. Maybe other things, not groceries.
It's a prediction. It's out there.
It's not anything tied to cold chain, I think, is going to be problematic.
There's dry goods in groceries. That doesn't mean to be.
Yeah.
Not everything is ice cream.
Most people who are doing their groceries, and they're doing a full shop. So produce, refrigerated and frozen is just too much of a big piece of the shop. The automated trucks, the only thing that I could see potentially being like quasi interesting with the grocery delivery would be, because the biggest drawback to grocery delivery is the fact that right now, for the most part, someone needs to be home. That's probably like the biggest linchpin problem with it. Whether you have a driver or not, the only way that I see driverless delivery then or automated autonomous delivery being a value for grocery especially, but probably in some other industries as well, is if you have a disproportionate amount of cars. So you essentially do, what I've shared with you before about drones, where you make the ineffective efficient, right? Like typical logistics thinking would be, I'm going to build up my density. I got this truck that's going on. If essentially you end up being able to, let's call it rideshare the vehicle or something like that, just for the period of time you need the delivery. And I think this is the interesting part, where you see this concept of even what Tesla's been talking about hey, buy a Tesla, it can make money for you while you're doing something else. I think if the amount of vehicles dramatically scales up, that you can do these kind of stupid deliveries that would be inefficient and ineffective for a person, but because there's no person and you can just send it so that all of my deliveries can be out for 7 a.m., so to speak, that's about the only way that I really think that comes around. But anything closer to traditional, where it's multi-drop, higher density, absolutely not.
I don't think it'll look the same. I think if it's like something like, I forgot something at the corner store, I need something quick, and they pay for that service to be here quick, and it knows ahead of time. As your smart technology in your house gets more integrated, but not everybody's subscribing to that smart technology to that extent yet.
Yeah, that's definitely true. A lot of people are not into that right now.
But I use that as a segue for the next one.
Segue, okay.
Boom!
Oh, that one I think this is quite true. AI agents will do our shopping. This one I definitely think is a breakout in 2026 for sure.
How do you see it working? That's my question to you.
Just in the same way that like the agent mode is already available, like on, you know, sort of Anthropic and ChatGPT and stuff like that. Like you just give it your parameters and you tell it what you want to go out, what sites you're willing to use, and that's it. And it's just going to buy. I mean, the Shopify integration alone with ChatGPT and Shopify is like one example. Granted, funny enough, like it flew under the radar a little bit, but you know, there's an article maybe 2 weeks ago that was like, oh, they're having a lot of problems. It's like, why? Because of the fact that there's so much bad data in Shopify. Like, you know, Shopify's got a good back end, of course, but like they also allow merchants to kind of do whatever they want. And like I've seen some stuff where like I'm just like, that should not have been allowed to have been set up that way, but Shopify kind of allows it, and it works for the person. Don't get me wrong, especially when they're filling out of their garage. It most certainly doesn't work though at scale.
Yeah, I think I'm maybe because I'm not a big shopper. I don't do a lot of shopping. So I struggle with this one a little bit because even when I'm very spontaneous, I'm going to buy something, even if I'm going to buy a car, if I'm going to buy anything, it takes me a little bit of time to make that decision. And I can't see it being like very premeditated in AI, like, oh, you want this. This is the one that you want. So it's gonna be hard. It's hard for me to see it, but I can see it for things like for my wife when she does grocery shopping. That one I can see because they can get onto that schedule and understands the schedule. This is what you're constantly buying. I understand what you're buying, and here we go. And then we're gonna pre-set up your week for you, and here are the recipes that you want.
Yeah, some of the stuff maybe for sure, but I think, you know, like. There's like across that scale, there's a lot of opportunity. Like oddly enough, I used it yesterday morning to just be like, hey, in the agent mode, like I'm thinking of this kind of trip. Go check this, go check that, go check this, go check that. And it just like ran and it came back with like, I don't know, 22 options. And, you know, you see basically like what the source was, like how much, the dates, like it was really a very different experience. So I do think the shopping piece will come there. I think what they need that's still just a little bit missing is that and here's then a prediction that I'll sprinkle on top of that one. To make that work, I think what they really need to do is have a different type of interaction and interface on mobile, especially for like voice interaction. There needs to be almost a mode where it's like you're just giving instructions and you're just talking to it about deciding on what you're going to do. That's a little bit separate from the actual execution, because like the bot always focused on trying to bring stuff back or whatever right away. But I think if more people could pick up the phone and be like, hey, you know, I want to start looking at this. These are my criteria, whatever.
See, this is where I don't know if you remember when AI first came out, they had those little pins that they had, and then you're talking to the pin all day long and for your notes and I think that's where the Facebook glasses really do come in handy to see where your eyes are looking at, what products and what you're looking at. Be like, okay, do you like this? Do you not like it? We'll give you some feedback. This is a good product when you look at, you know, I mean, so those are the things that will make things better for those purchases and able to have that data. Because you're right, like I don't want it to be like a prompt in that sense. Maybe if I'm planning a vacation, maybe it might work. But if I'm thinking about buying a new laptop, if I have 22 choices, it's gonna kind of be like there's too much choice. I'm just not gonna buy anything. But understanding why I need what I need and how I need it, that should play to the part in what I'm purchasing, right? So I recently bought a laptop. I just went on Best Buy, looked at the parameters I'm looking for, and I got it. But setting it up, like it was a pain in the butt. Like for me, the next thing that should be on this list is a new Windows, a new system, because it is like Windows is just, I don't think it functions to what we do anymore. And I think we need a whole new ecosystem for that.
Funny enough, when you're talking about AI and stuff like that, like there's a bunch of social that's just blowing up and hating on Microsoft to no end because they're trying to overly AI Windows. And someone the other day just was like, I do not need AI in Notepad. Why is that? And I don't need AI in Paint. Like, you know what I mean? Like these absurd places where they're just injecting it into the OS.
But it's not even user friendly. Like, again, going back to my experience, I bought this laptop. I'm trying to set up, and we use Google work email, and you know, obviously you can't now log into the computer for the first time using a Google email. You have to set up the background information. Like, I wish if I was purchasing that, all that information was preset, and then that laptop came ready how I needed it, because the AI went in there and did it for me. That's what I'd like to see. That's what I'm trying to get out of it.
I mean, that's interesting. I think the real problem is that, like, you shouldn't need to be inputting credentials to set up something you just bought. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason Windows needs an email and an account when you're setting it up for the first time.
It's a company asset, so I'm setting it up for somebody else.
Well,
so I need to put programs in and preset all that because it's a company asset, right?
I just mean my point being is that whether you buy it for a company or whatever, this notion of like having, like, you have to do a whole runaround if you don't like to set up even a personal laptop on a brand new Windows install these days. Crazy.
What's some last ones that you want to throw out there?
Well, let's talk about automation, because I had talked to you about some other stuff there. So 2026 being the year of automation. So this one I agree with personally for a few reasons. I think that,
this one? Sorry, I'll bring it to the screen so everybody can
automation on the physical side.
This one, yeah, the very first one?
No, it's just like talking about like, autonomous trucks, long haul. But I mean, I think automation in like supply chain and more so on logistics side. So warehousing, for example, delivery, pick, pack, like all of these things. I think that automation that way is going to be a big factor for 2026. I think I told you that I saw yesterday also something from Scott Galloway where he said Amazon was his 2026 pick of the year for stock. And he's basically saying that, they've gotten away the last X number of years just basically really investing in infrastructure and capabilities. And he goes, 2026 is going to be a breakout year. And he made this comment that they have more autonomous robots. It was over 1 million. Amazon has more autonomous robots than every other of their competitors combined, than all of them combined. So that, to me, I think is going to be the big differentiator, because the thing is that, as you continue to look for, as you continue to have like disruption in your supply chain, as you continue to have things where geopolitical things are super unstable, and all of a sudden sourcing from this place to that place means something different. It means your product life cycles are different. It means that how you're going to stock is going to be different. It means how you're going to sell is going to be different. I just think that the manual sort of e-commerce and sort of general sort of commerce warehousing, it won't be able to keep up. And because it won't be able to keep up, people are going to continue to go then towards the UPSs, the FedExes, the Amazons, like these big outfits that have invested, Symbotic, for example, like all of these organizations that have invested billions of dollars into automation.
I think Amazon's a really interesting play for the year. I'm curious to see how Walmart reacts to because I don't know if you guys saw there's a big announcement that Amazon's building a massive store, and they're going into brick and mortar, and everybody's like, oh, this is a dumb idea, they should never get into it. And a few people are like, no, this is a fantastic idea. It's really pushing their envelope and what their ability to do, because to your point, they're so automated, they can make the brick and mortar so efficient, because they've already been testing it for years without us knowing. Like at the airports, when you had the cashless stores where you can go in, grab, and you walk out, and you have to have put a membership involved with all that, and it becomes far more easier to do shopping. The one click becomes like the position, and where Walmart can't compete with a lot of that because their brick and mortar is not set up for that. So it is going to be a very interesting for Amazon, but I'd love to see what Walmart comes out by the end of the year as a reaction into that logistical space that Amazon's been working on, that Walmart hasn't really touched yet to the same extent, and how they're going to be unique and different would be my kind of guess. especially since Walmart just had a big shakeup, right? They have a new CEO of Walmart US. They have a new CEO, president of Sam's Club. Like a lot happened after their last CEO stepped out of the way there and sort of retired or whatever. I think he retired. But it will be interesting to see, because I really do think that this continued push, like the uncertainty of the world, the challenges, the cost pressures and stuff like that, are continuing to force a lot of amalgamation and consolidation. And I think that these big enterprises, like the Walmarts, the Amazons, Costco's, all of these different players are going to continue to lean on their size as a primary driver. On that note, keeping true to our time, it's 2026.
Right on time.
We're right on time. John, final thoughts.
I don't have any. Well, look, I hope everyone had a good Q4. I hope that, everything went well for you. And if it didn't, you know what you need to fix, because Q4 doesn't make problems. It only exposes them. So I hope you are able to start the year right, and you are focused on hitting the ground hard right away and not dragging your feet for too long.
Great words. And on that note, I'm going to hit the right button starting off the year.